Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Cinnamon Effect. Today, I wanted to do something a little different. You'll notice it's just me on this episode, solo episode. I wanted to talk a little bit about the cinnamon effect and what is it really? I mean, some people are asking me, well, what does that mean? You know, people that haven't listened to the show yet. And I wanted to kind of break it down for you and let you know what was in my head when I was creating the idea for this podcast. And basically, the crux of what I wanted to provide was inspiration to improve your life. You know, I was thinking about the things that have made my life better over the years. And I just wanted to give my audience something to think about as far as how they can improve their own lives. So I kind of came up with this Cinnamon Effect Manifesto. So these are the things that I believe make life a little sweeter, healthier, and more fulfilling. And so the name Cinnamon Effect came up because I just kept thinking, what is it that you put, not put on life, but what do you do to make your life a little bit sweeter, a little bit healthier, just a little bit better? And besides the fact that I have cinnamon colored hair, I was thinking, you sprinkle a little cinnamon on it, right? And if you sprinkle cinnamon on anything, it usually makes it better, right? So that's kind of where the idea came about. And after some soul searching, I came up with these 5 pillars, and they just happen to be C's, the 5 C's. And I'm going to tell you what they are. And then, when I was driving here today, I was thinking, I'm just going to explain what the 5 pillars of the cinnamon effect are. And that's it. But then as I was driving here, I thought, it sounds a little fluffy. I'll give that word like fluffy, like a little bit of fluff piece, unless you know the backstory. So I am going to go into a little bit of my backstory, and I hope you guys like it. So the 5 C's are clarity, confidence, creativity, connection, and calmness. Those are the 5 C's. So that's what the cinnamon effect is all about, cultivating those 5 C's. And we've touched on a couple of them in, the first couple of episodes. And these are things that just have become important on my journey. And so I wanted to share a little bit more background for you guys. So the first one, clarity. I would say my story kind of began when I got pregnant with my son. And pregnancy did not really go the way I had envisioned. I really thought I was going to be one of those pregnant women who were, doing handstands and just kind of living their best life pregnant, glowing and just, feeling great every day. And that ended up not being me at all. And in fact, I had gone to my first yoga class pregnant, and I was like, I ended up laying on the mat the whole time and about to throw up. And I thought, okay. I knew right then, this is not really going the way I had envisioned. So I ended up having, I was pregnant and very sick the whole time. I had my son, had an interesting birth experience that maybe we'll speak on another time, but just know that whole experience of being pregnant and giving birth tested every single fiber of my being. I really did not expect, you see so many people having babies, and it goes, unfortunately it doesn't go well for some people, but for so many women, it's like just a breeze. It's a walk in the park. And for me, it just was not that. And so I had my son, and when he was about a year, we moved to Park City, Utah. So we were here in Jupiter, Florida, and we ended up moving across the country. He was about I think 14 or 15 months old. And we decide that we are going to live the mountain life and move to Park City, which, at the time I didn't realize I had been living with undiagnosed PTSD and also postpartum depression and anxiety. So here I was not really up for making a cross-country move, but of course that's what I did. I pushed forward, and I didn't really honor my own, boundaries, saying, I don't think I'm ready for this, or I think this might be too much for me. I definitely did not voice that. I was like, yep, okay, let's do it. Let's go. Let's roll, because that's kind of what I had always done. So we moved to Utah, and it was, it was so beautiful in so many ways, because we were living this lifestyle that was completely different than what I had ever experienced, living in the mountains, living with snow. I remember the first time I actually drove my car after a snowstorm, and I didn't think to, clear off the snow. I just kind of drove away and let all the snow just fall off my car and fly off the top of my car. And I'm sure I made people really upset, that were driving behind me. But I just really didn't know anything about living in the snow. So I did my best to get out there and ski, and I had a young child, but really embraced that lifestyle. And around that time, and when I was living in Utah, is when I started to learn about feng shui. And this is very poignant in my journey, because as soon as I learned about it, I thought, I'm always going to apply these principles to my life. And so that's where the C comes in, the first C of my 5 pillars. And that C is clarity. So in feng shui, they really teach you about decluttering and finding balance. And, I have spoken on this podcast about this before, but it really changed my life. And it started there. It started having a young child, living in a place that I wasn't familiar with, spending more time, I would say spending more time in my home, because, part of the year it's really, really cold. And, and me being from Florida, I kind of walked around with one of those portable Dyson heaters, and I kind of would take it from room to room. I mean, that's how cold I was all the time. And I'd set it up in the bathroom when I was getting ready in the morning. And, I just really took me a while to adapt, but spending more time in the house and really, working, really using what I was learning. So I ended up going to a school that was like, it was all very intensive program, and just kind of applying all those principles to my life. And so once I had decluttered my surroundings, it felt only natural to start decluttering other things in my life. And I will say, COVID hit. This was during, the pandemic. And so just everything was very interesting. The whole world changed. And I think a lot of us, and actually speaking to a lot of different people, and now a lot of people that have moved here to Florida from other places, there were a couple things that happened. And I think a lot of you can relate. Some of you moved to other places. Some of you, sold your home you were in, you bought a different home. Some of you bought like RVs and headed out on the open road. Some people pulled their kids out of school. Some people were doing Zoom. I mean, everything really, really changed. And in my eyes, things did start to change for me too. And I credit the feng shui training and decluttering of my space to really decluttering aspects of my life. So I decided that I did not want to live in Utah anymore. And it was really a tough decision. Again, I think I was battling some other some other things. I was battling the PTSD, which I later was diagnosed because I had gotten pregnant again and had a miscarriage. And the miscarriage kind of sent me into these, I don't even know how to explain it, but it just sent me into kind of a whirlwind. And that's when I went to a therapist, and she was like, learned my history and said, well, you are dealing with PTSD, and this miscarriage basically exacerbated all of the symptoms you were having. So here I was dealing with all of this. And, after the miscarriage, my health I was tanking a little bit. I was struggling living in the cold, and I was having some health issues that I'd never had before. So I was really toying with, not drinking alcohol anymore. That's kind of where the birth of that happened, because I just thought I've got to strip away anything that's not making me feel well, because I overall don't really feel that great. And I guess in my eyes, part of me thought, well, if I can get back to where I'm from and where I feel comfortable and the climate that I enjoy, which is Florida, that I would do better there, and that really came about because of my feng shui and what I was practicing. And I was really practicing it in everyday life. So the clarity came from that period of time. And I basically told my husband, I want to go back to Florida. I ended up coming down here solo and buying a house that was not even on the market, going to tour schools because my son was about to start kindergarten. And so my husband was kind of like, you're driving this train here, and if you want to make this move, then you kind of have to put some balls in motion. And so I did, and I came back and I got everything worked out. You give a woman a mission and, be prepared to see some action. So I did everything that I needed to do, and ended up making the move right before my son started kindergarten. So enrolling him in a school, and he started kindergarten, and we were staying in a hotel because we had not moved into the house that we had gotten yet. So it all became very clear what I needed to do. And so I took that action, and honestly, moving to Utah, it was so beautiful and such a great experience, but I also experienced some really trying times there too. So, but it all led me to this very clear place of, I feel like I need to come back to Florida, and this is what I need to do. So I feel very grateful for being able to have the clarity to make those decisions. So why I'm telling you, these 5 C's is because all of these steps were really important on my journey. And I feel like they could be super helpful to someone else that's maybe struggling a little bit. At that time also, I was about to turn 40. That felt like a huge milestone to me, and is a huge milestone. And being in my 40s now is like the best, just like the best time of my life. I can really feel that I feel much more certain about where I've been, where I'm going. I do feel very clear in my journey and my mission. So that's the clarity, the C, one of the pillars, clarity. And once you feel clear about something, I think you can start to feel confident. So the second pillar is confidence. And I think everything starts with confidence. Believe in yourself. If you dream it, you can do it. And I really learned about confidence when I was an NFL cheerleader. So I was a cheerleader for the Miami Dolphins, and this is kind of backtracking my story a little bit, but it's so important on the journey because that is really where I learned about confidence. And you would think, oh yeah, you were probably really super confident going into it, right? To even think that you could, be an NFL cheerleader. Well, I don't know if that was necessarily the case. I tend to do things that scare me and that I don't feel super comfortable or confident doing. And there is something in me that just wants to give it a shot. And maybe that is like a quiet confidence, but if you asked me if I felt like I was a super confident person, I would say maybe now I feel confident, but then I definitely did not feel confident. So I really had to build that muscle. And when you're performing in front of a lot of people, you build that muscle pretty quickly. But what I want to instill in all of you is that you can build that muscle as well. And we would talk about in practice, in dance. So I've been a dancer since I was 5 years old, but I was not an NFL cheerleader until I was 28, which was a little on the older end of the spectrum. So we would always talk about in dance the concept of going full out. And if you've ever been in a dance class or been a dancer, or maybe they use it in other sports, but in dance, you talk about dancing full out. And what dancing full out means is you're not marking it. You're not just, throwing your arm up here. You are dancing like you are on stage in the actual performance. And so that builds muscle memory. It also builds confidence. It also, it gets those moves like cemented in your brain, right? So I try and use that concept in my life, and it has really helped me. Like, I feel like whatever I do, how you do anything is how you do everything. And whatever I do, I really try to go full out with it. I try to not mark it. If I'm like volunteering or something, I am trying to like talk to as many people as I can. Like I'm really trying to like own the experience, So I think if you all can think about going full out in your own life, what a difference it would make. We also, when we were cheering, we had to show up camera ready all the time. And that may seem like I'm asking you to put on makeup and be dolled up all the time. Well, that's not really what I mean, because I'm definitely not that way all the time. But if you think about doing something important or doing something that you really want to do, or pursuing a goal, or maybe it's in your work, your everyday work. If you show up camera ready, just think about what it would take, just to be camera ready and go full out. What a difference that would make in your life. So that was a huge lesson for me. And I really try and take that on to other things. So when I talk about confidence, even if you feel like you're not there and you're not that a confident person, you can always work on building that confidence muscle. And I think putting yourself out there and trying new things, that is building that confidence muscle. And, doing this podcast today solo is, this is building my confidence muscle, right? So I always try and do those types of things. And I never regret it. I always feel really rewarded with that in mind. So, okay. The next pillar of the Cinnamon Effect is creativity. And I believe once you feel clear, so you've gained that clarity on how you want to move forward in life, and you've worked that confidence muscle a little bit, it's time to get creative. So how do you get creative? How do you fill your creativity cup? That is something is so important to ask yourself. And I think creativity gets overlooked a lot of the time. And I really think once you start to get creative with yourself, with with different things. You want to try different things. You want to, take an art class or take a dance class or learn to play an instrument, or maybe it's painting, or maybe it's a public speaking class, or, it really could be anything. Once you realize that getting those creative juices moving actually makes you a better problem solver. It provides so much to your life. I feel like if you're feeling stagnant, if you're feeling like you don't have the answer to a question, you don't know which way to go in your life, creativity really adds those special, powers that you need to get everything flowing again. And I have always been a very creative person. So this is a big one for me. And I realized that I can do, I have worked in corporate scenarios and everything. And every single time I was in that kind of corporate life, I had to be doing something creative on the side. And I think, I could be more creative than, Joe Schmo over here. But I think it's important for everybody to kind of find that outlet and where they can get those juices flowing. So like I said, I had started dance when I was 5, NFL cheerleader. So, still continuing to dance. In my early 20s, I had a jewelry making business. So I was hand making jewelry, and I remember sitting in my room I had set up, a full table and all the beads and everything, and literally stringing beads for hours and hours at a time. And maybe it was like a little bit meditative for me, because I felt very at peace. I felt very fulfilled, having that creative outlet. So a little known fact, well, some people remember my jewelry making business, and I would do little pop-up shops around the holidays, and I had a blast with it. And I would recruit my friends. They would be in my little marketing campaigns. We would take pictures, and it was just a great time. Super, super fun. I then advanced my jewelry making abilities. I took a class with an amazing jeweler, and I learned how to do, I'm going to say it wrong, but I think it's called like metal smithing. You're like melting down metals, gold. And actually, I don't think we were dealing with gold. We were dealing with more like silver and stuff like that. But I was actually making jewelry pieces, which was really fun. I made like some rings, and I remember my teacher saying, we had like the headband with like the light on it. So so that you could see everything really clearly. And we were using things that, had some like toxic fumes and things like that. And I remember him saying, try not to breathe it in and, all this. And I thought, oh my God, I'm getting so lightheaded, and I'm like, if you tell me that I could pass out, I will probably make myself pass out, because I'm just thinking about it so much. And my teacher looked at me, and I said, I don't feel so well right now. And he said, I think you've got your headlamp on too tight. And so I took my headlamp off, and I felt much better. But, that jewelry making class was so much fun. So I'm just trying to inspire you to go out there and try something a little different, get your creative juices flowing. And from the creativity that's sparked, and if you're really doing something that you enjoy and that you love to do, I think that's where you will find more connection. And that's the next C in my pillars, is connection. So if you're going somewhere and doing something that you love to do, chances are you're going to meet somebody that is there that you connect with. And I think that's so important, the connection aspect of life. So your vibe attracts your tribe. So if you are, learning, I don't know, something like off the wall, or, you're like my son, he's into Pokemon cards. Like, he's going to find other kids that he connects with through doing more things surrounding Pokemon cards, right? So the creativity leads to connection, and connection is so important for all of us. When we don't feel connected, we feel less supported. I think that adds to more, you just feel sad. I think connection adds so much to life, and that really is the cinnamon effect right there, is connecting with other people. That's really what I wanted to do by having this show, is connect with really interesting, fun people that I love, that I've already known, new people that are, coming into my life. And so connection is the next pillar of the cinnamon effect. And I think in order to find connection, there's a couple of ways that I found connection in my own life. And I have recently gone on 2 different yoga retreats. I kind of talked about one of them on a previous episode, but I attended both these yoga retreats by myself. And some people are like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. But what that did for me was open myself up to people and experiences that I would not typically have. And as much as I love girls' trips and trips with friends and people that I know and love, and trips with my family, there's something different that happens when you're on your own. And what happened for me going on a yoga retreat where I knew nobody, I really was able to, I kind of made the decision, like, I can connect with somebody if I want to, but I can also be private and stay, on my own. So, and I did a little bit of both, but I really did connect with some wonderful people that I still talk to this day, mostly through social media, but we shared in this beautiful experience where we were all looking for some self-connection. So ways to connect to our inner self. And I think that definitely happened for me. But it also, I also was able to open myself up to other people and connect with them as well. And people that I would not normally think that we would be compatible, and we really were. So that was really exciting to think, like, never shut yourself out from a potential camaraderie with somebody just based on maybe, where they're from or what they're into, and, really keep yourself open, because I think those are the most beautiful friendships, the ones that don't seem like they're really you're really aligned, and you find out, like, oh wow, we had way more in common than we ever could have imagined. Right. So, and also what I learned from self-connection on that trip, on both of those trips, I actually did, I think from the self-connection that I experienced from being alone, by myself. The first trip was 9 days. And then I did another one that was, it was probably 4 or 5 days where I was on my own. I felt like I came back home with, again, going back to the first pillar, which is clarity. I came back with so much clarity. I really thought about new things that I wanted to try. I realized that I wanted to get back into real estate, which was something that I had done in my early 20s, and I really wanted to get back. And I had been, investing in stuff over the years and doing different projects, but I really wanted to get back to real estate and focus on that more. So that was one of the things that came out of, going on that trip, being silent and just quiet with myself. And I also realized that, I think the podcast didn't really come until a little bit later, but I did feel like I had, a story to share, and I wanted to I wanted to open myself up to learning about other people and their businesses and their lives and their journeys, because I really think we can learn so much from that. So I came back and I came back refreshed and ready to kind of take on these new goals. So that connection and that self-connection led me to a state of calm. So my fifth pillar is calmness. And how do we get there? How do we get to this calm state of mind? This kind of, circles back to the beginning part of my story where I was, living in Utah and not really feeling my best. I'd kind of gone through, just a whirlwind of experiences and was kind of dealing with some heavier things. So it didn't really feel, my story didn't really feel calm right away. It definitely was chaotic for a little while. And I think the calmness came from all of the things that I did leading up to this point. So getting clear on my goals, incorporating more creativity and connection in my life, having the confidence to try new things. And the calm came from really focusing in on my health. I knew I wanted to see a functional medicine doctor. And I had waited, I'd actually referred other people to my doctor. And we're going to have her on the podcast soon. But I knew that I know that you are kind of like your best teacher. Inside we know we have an intuitive feeling that kind of leads us down a path. And I think when you know that something is not really right with your health, you are kind of your best healer, right? And I knew something was not right. And I knew that I was dealing with all of these things and a lot of emotional things. I was carrying a lot of emotional weight and I could feel it. I was, 25 pounds heavier than I am now. And I could really feel, gosh, I just am ready to get myself back on track. So I saw my doctor and again, it was like decluttering my health and we started stripping away things that no longer served me and different foods. And she said, well, maybe it's a good idea you eliminate gluten and you eliminate this and that. And we just kind of, I was like, I'll do it. I don't even care. I'm not going to miss anything. I'm just going to clear all of this out. And so I did. I got really strict with what I was eating, what I was consuming. I stopped drinking alcohol. I didn't eat sugar for a while, which I really wish I could do the no sugar thing. I'm really trying on that, but I did. I stripped everything away and it was amazing. I had been suffering from rashes and what I realized was kind of like food-induced anxiety. And maybe some of you understand that, but when I eliminated gluten, I felt like, gosh, I just felt more clear. The brain fog went away. I got on like a pretty intense supplement regimen. I did all this and then we did some blood work and then I found out the results. And here I thought, oh, well, just cutting all this out is, I'm going to be great after this. Well, then I got my blood work results and it was like, oh no, okay. There's some things that you're going to have to work on probably for a long time, if not forever. So I was diagnosed with autoimmune and I actually at that time, she suggested that I readdress the PTSD, that maybe I had not fully, healed from that. And so I actually did more EMDR therapy to kind of work on that. And it was just amazing what happened. And this isn't a weight loss story. I did end up losing the 25 pounds, but that was, of course, that was nice. But what I realized was that I was carrying so much emotional weight, and that was being reflected in my body. So that was just a life-changing experience. And what I learned was the calm came from these rituals and the supplements, the routines I started to get in. And you would think that would be less calm, but it actually added so much calm to my life because I felt like I was very in charge of what I was doing and that I could trust myself to to take the supplements and to not eat or drink the things that were really not making me feel well. I felt like for the first time in a while, I could really trust that what I was doing was going to have a positive impact on my life. So I also started, another interesting thing that I started doing was not killing myself with exercise. And I realized that, being a dancer, being an NFL cheerleader, always being active and doing all of these things, I realized that sometimes I was like punishing myself with exercise. And I was working with my trainer, Sam, who is also going to come on the podcast because she's made such a huge impact on my life. And I want you guys all to meet her as well. So Sam and I just started to slow down. She knew that I was working through some things and she kind of met me where I was at. And I think the instinct is to do more cardio and to, just really push yourself when you're not feeling your best. But for me, we kind of slowed it all down and we did more just simple exercises, just a more like relaxing, relaxing workout. Maybe it's not the right term, but we kind of just took it slower. And it's funny because the weight started to just like melt off me. Of course, I'd made dietary changes. I was taking supplements, but I was actually working out less than I ever had. And I was feeling better, stronger, more calm, more centered. I was really feeling really good. And I've tried to carry that into, now I'm in my, early 40s, and I'm just trying to carry that mentality, on to the next years of my life and just treating my mind and my body in a better way, in a calm way. And I think that if I could just instill anything in all of you is that you can really feel like you are down and that you can't, make it through something, and you can. Your mindset is everything. The way you talk to yourself, the way you think about yourself, the intention that you put into your life and the things that you do for yourself, feed your body the right things, love on yourself, and it makes all the difference in the world. So those are my 5 C's of the Cinnamon Effect. And in order to make those things work for my life, I really had to lean into 4 things, which were my intuition, that little feeling in your gut when you know something is right or when you know something is wrong. I really listened to my intuition and I really tried to hone in on my intuition. My power, I realized that I am so powerful. And I think I never gave myself the credit that I deserved when it came to that. And I think probably most of us don't, right? So you have to realize that power within yourself and just really work on it, and realize that it is there and it's all inside of you. It's not going to come from anybody else. My unique gifts, I really did try to tap into what is unique about me and how is this going to translate into something that I want to do? And, they always say like, what do your friends come to you about? What are they asking you about? And I feel like I was always kind of giving advice or, giving these little just tips that I had picked up along the way. And so now I feel like I can translate that into what I'm doing here with this podcast is trying to explore my unique gifts. And I think one of the things that I have been able to do is really connect with a lot of people. And I want to bring those connections here and share them with all of you. So that is, exploring your unique gifts. Everyone's got 1, 2, 3. They've got multiple unique gifts. So just search within yourself about that and explore further. And then the last one was my intentions. So I really had to get clear in order to change my life and to change how I was feeling. I really had to get clear on what I wanted and who I wanted to be and how I wanted to move forward in the next, decades of my life. So I always think if the intentions are good and solid and, then you can do anything. If they are good intentions and you really mean well and you really mean well to help yourself or fulfill your best and highest good, you can never go wrong with that. So that is my Cinnamon Effect Manifesto for all of you guys. And I just want to say that I am filming this solo episode the day before Thanksgiving, and it's definitely not lost on me how grateful I feel to be able to be here, to be able to talk to all of you, to give you some insight into who I am, and to hopefully share things that you will enjoy and find interesting and get something out of. I really appreciate you being here. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. I think you'll be listening to this before the holiday season is over. And happy Thanksgiving, and sending my love to all of you guys. Thank you so much.